Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Greer. I'm the Assistant Vice President and Dean of Students here at Northern, and I'm here to talk to you today about a bunch of stuff, kind of financial stuff, but I've thrown in some other things too. So usually we do this face-to-face, and it's very interactive, and we can't do that this summer. So hopefully you'll get some information that maybe you've been wondering about. As you go through this, please write down your questions and then email me or call the office. My email address is cgreer, so cgreer@nmu.edu. And the office phone number is 906-227-1700. So that's the office. There are lots of people in here who can answer your questions. But if you want to speak directly to me, just leave a message and I'll get back to you. So I promise that I'll respond within 24 hours. I usually can respond much sooner than that, but if at all possible, within 24 hours. So feel free. You aren't bothering us. We talk to parents all the time. We enjoy talking to you. So feel free to give us a call. Okay. So this is everything that we're going to be talking about. Now, I have to tell you that the way I'm recording this is through something called VoiceThread. And VoiceThread, I've used it for my classes, and I really enjoy it because you can have the video along with the PowerPoint. But you have to do it in small bits. So it's going to look a little glitchy to you maybe because I'm going to turn it off, save it, and then go back. So I apologize for that, but I think it's the best quality in the end. So here's what we're going to talk about, and I'm going to do my first stop and restart in a second. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is the e-bill. So this is how students find out what they owe for tuition, fees, room and board, etc. Now, we're telling the students a lot of the same information, but we know that we're throwing an awful lot at them and they may not remember how to do it. So that's why we're telling you to. So the first thing they do is they go into My NMU. So My NMU is the student portal. And that's the address, mynmu.nmu.edu. So they log into that. It brings them to this page then, and they click on the Student Services tab, and it brings them to this page. So this is most of the things that they need to do on My NMU. And down here, they click on the e-bill system, and up pops their bill. So it's as easy as that for them, but you may need to walk them through the first time that they actually want to look at the bill. You can also have access to the e-bill. So the bills are available to students on My NMU, and they can elect to give you access to their financial information via the authorized users function. So what that looks like is this. They go in again to My NMU. They click on authorized users when they get to their bill. That brings them to this. They click on add authorized user, brings them to this, and they put your email address in there. And they answer those two questions. So that gives you access. Now, you will get an email then that says you have access. It will give you a code. You can change it to something that you remember. Okay, now we're going to go a little further in the e-bill and show you exactly what you, if you're given access, or your son or daughter your student will take a look at when they get in. So here's the bill again. If they click on view statements, this will come up. So this is what the bill looks like. Is it going to look exactly like this? I feel like we tweak it every year, but this is approximately what it will look like. Now, the students asked us to put their schedule at the top so that they had easy access to it in multiple places. So we did that. So clearly they'll be able to see what classes they're enrolled in for the semester. And then account summary, charges versus credits or anticipated credits. So that's generally financial aid. You'll notice here that the HERE funding is there. That's COVID funding. And there'll be more information coming to the students about how they can get that funding. But our students are eligible for at least $750. Anyway, so we'll go through this bit by bit so that you can see what everything means on the bill. So first, I'd like to look at tuition. Now, the good news is that I waited so long to video this that they've decided on tuition and fees. So everything that I'm telling you is accurate information for the fall. That usually doesn't happen with me. When I do parent orientation, we would have already been through 3 sessions, and they would have gotten last year's information, with a big star next to it saying, pay attention to what's coming. But you are all getting the up-to-date tuition and fee information. So let's look at tuition for the fall. We have lower division and upper division, so we'll pay a little bit of attention to that. I think most of you are probably with students who are lower division. We pay per credit hour from 1 to 11 hours, 1 to 11 hours. So this is called a flat rate tuition structure. So 1 to 11 is per credit hour, and then 12 to 16, they pay one flat rate. So it is $6,049 for Michigan residents and $8,797 for non-resident, out-of-state, international, etc. And then when you hit 17, then you start paying per credit hour again. This was really intended to suggest that our students take 16 credits. A student who takes 16 credits a semester can graduate in 8 semesters, 4 years. And isn't that what we all want, right? So this was our attempt to get students to take 4 courses because they're paying for 4. If they're only enrolled in 12, they're paying the same amount, right? So you pay the same amount for 3 courses as you do for 4 courses. So we're hopeful that students take more credits because of this. Here's the upper division rate that I was talking about. So if someone is coming in with over 56 credits, this is what they pay. So the flat tuition rate is $63.37 for Michigan, $9,211 for non-Michigan, international, etc. Okay, so let's look at the university fee next. Okay, it is $373 per semester, fall, winter semesters, for undergraduates taking 12 or more credits, and all graduate students in 8 or more. So this is like our infrastructure fee. So when I first came here, there were 8 or 9 line items on the bill. There was the university center fee, the health center fee, registration fee, laptop fee. It went on and on. Probably now 15 years ago, 14, 15 years ago, we rolled that all together into one fee. So all of our students pay it. It'll be on the bill with anybody who's taking full-time credits. Okay, and the activity fee. Let's see. Here we go. So the student discretionary activity fee. This fee is charged to all students who are in 6 or more on-campus credits. So this is paying for student events by and large. So every student pays it every semester. It funds right off the top. We fund the Northwind, which is the student newspaper, the WUPX, the student-run radio station, ASNMU, which is student government, and then the SFC, which is the Student Finance Committee. The Student Finance Committee gets the most money because then they give money to other student organizations. So right off the top of what they get, they fund campus cinema, and they bring movies to campus. First Day Productions, I think that name has changed, honestly, but I couldn't find it at the last second. But they bring smaller acts to campus, usually regional musical acts. The Student Art Gallery, that's run by students, for students, not just art students, but their gallery showings are open to any student, and that's housed in the library. Northern Arts and Entertainment brings large entertainment groups to campus, and Platform Personalities brings speakers to campus. So what this means for your student is that most of our events that we run on campus are free to them because they pay the student activity fee. So the movies are free. First Day Productions, almost everything they do is free. Every once in a while, Northern Arts and Entertainment and Platform Personalities may bring a very expensive act to campus. So students, there may be a student ticket price, therefore, if it's a $75,000 act, $100,000 act, there's going to have to be a student price. But because I don't pay the student activity fee, my ticket price is $10, $15 more than theirs. So the students are getting a big break by paying this fee every semester, and there's always something to do, and most of it is free. That's honestly the best part. They can walk around campus and do an awful lot for no more money. Okay, let's talk meal plans. So everybody that lives on campus is required to have a meal plan. All incoming freshmen are required to have right there Platinum, Gold, or Basic 14 constant plan. And each plan includes weekly exchange meals, and that means that students can go to the Wildcat Den and eat and have a meal there. And so that's part of the plan, the exchanges at the Wildcat Den. And I don't know, I've eaten there. It's really good food, but the students tell me there's something magical about the macaroni and cheese. I don't know. And then they all have dining dollars so that they can purchase snacks on campus. It's used at Starbucks, I can tell you that. And then guest passes so that if they have friends or you come to visit, they can take you to the cafeteria. Okay, so here are the options right now. So you can see I'm not going to go over this in great detail. Dining is doing their own presentation, and you can find all this on the website. But what I wanted you to do, or I wanted to show you at least, is a comparison. Platinum, they say it's the best value plan. It really is. If you look at the cost for that versus the cost for gold, for instance, and the basic 14, it's basically $400, quick math in my head. But look at the difference, it's $400, but you automatically, if you're in platinum, get $350 more in dining dollars, 4 more exchanges per week, 10 guest passes versus 2 guest passes. It really is the best option. They've even added, a discount at retail locations. So that means the other restaurants on campus. So I think I just wanted you to see that, and of course it depends on what your student is going to eat, right? Are they here all the time? Do they have a job where they can eat at their job? So you have to weigh all that. But I just wanted to point out that the comparison in the rates and in what you get. Okay, let's talk room charges. So the room rates for next year have been set. We have kind of 2 different areas on campus. So the first area that we're going to talk about is called Quad 2. That is Hunt, VA, Van Antwerp, Majors, and Milan Hall. So they're the older dorms, although they've all been renovated. But here's the cost for that. So a shared bedroom suite. So that means 2 people in one room and 2 people in another room share a bathroom. And then the single shared suite, single share a bathroom. So there are the rates for that. We really don't have very many single shared suites on campus, but I wanted you to see the price. And also students pay a comprehensive fee of $140 per semester. This covers laundry, internet, cable. So the laundry, I wanted to explain that a little bit. Because they pay this fee, they can just go do their laundry. They don't need tokens. They don't need quarters. They just can go do their laundry. There are 4 washers and 4 dryers on every floor. And so it's very easy for students to just go do their laundry, which we love and everybody appreciates, to have clean clothes. But anyway, that is the way it works in Quad 2. And here is the woods. So the woods, birch, cedar, maple halls, east, west, and they have a slightly different setup. So we do have the same shared bedroom suite concept. So 2 people share a bathroom. But then we also have private bedrooms. So as you can see, the doors close in the private bedrooms. They share the outer area. So that's where the sinks are and the closets. And then those 2 people share a bathroom with 2 more people who are in the private bedroom suite setup. So that's the way it looks in the woods. They also pay a comprehensive fee, covers the same things. The only thing that's different is in the woods, the laundry facilities are on the first floor. So it's on our Main Street area. So the laundry kitchenettes are on the first floor of those buildings. And they have a way to see on an app when machines are available, when their machine is finished. It's very classy and the students love that. So that's the way the fees work in those buildings. The student athletic fee. This fee was requested by the student body. They were, and this was when I first got here, so it was the early 2000s. They asked if we could just charge them one time so that they could get into athletic events without having to find $1 or $2 or $5. So we said sure, and so that's what we set up. So this is a one-time fee. It is non-refundable. Every student has to pay it, and it allows it's charged the first time students become full-time. So if somebody starts here and is only taking 6 credits, they're not going to be charged until the first semester that they take 12. So it is, and it's half for transfer students. So it is $265. It allows free attendance to football, volleyball, basketball, and hockey games. Now, they just flash their card and they get in. I think football has a student line. Hockey's a little bit different. It's still free, but they have to show up 30 minutes before the start of the game and to get into the student section. And they all want to sit in the student section. Of course, that's the most fun. But it is good for 6 years. So if your student is here for more than 6 years, they need to start studying and stop going to athletic events. They won't be able to go anymore. But anyway, this is, I just wanted you to see this you will only see this one time in your student's life here at Northern. And if you see it 2 times, you need to call me. Okay, the student rec pass. So the students voted on this. They did a referendum vote and they said, we really want the PEEF pass to be included in our tuition, to be billed to us as a fee, that we don't have to go register for it. So we said, okay, we'll do that. It took us a couple years, though, to figure out how to do it, because the state will tell us that we can't raise tuition more than, let's just ballpark it, 2.5%. And this would have been included in that 2.5%. So when you charge as little as we charge relative to other schools, that would have been $85 is a big percentage of that. So, but we did figure out a way to do it. And we made it refundable by the 5th day of the semester. If it's refundable, then it doesn't count towards that cap, that tuition cap. So that's what we did. It will show up on the bill, but if the students don't want it, they just go to the Student Service Center and they'll take it off the bill. They have to do it by the 5th day of the semester, though. So this includes the use of everything over at the Physical Education Instructional Facility, which is our rec center. We call it the PEEF. It includes use of all of the facilities over there. If the students want to be in intramural sports, they need to keep this. Don't get a refund for this. If they want to play flag football or Frisbee, that kind of thing, they need to have the membership. It includes courses like aerobics, yoga, racquetball courts, everything that's on this slide. There is drop-in hockey and figure skating too when the ice isn't being used by the hockey team or the basketball team, because our basketball teams play their games in the hockey arena, and we put a court over the ice. It also includes reduced rates on outdoor rec center equipment, and there is free stuff there. It's not all rental. The fat tire bikes are free. I think the cross-country skis are free. But the PEEF is really popular. I mean, students are there all the time. The most popular times, I think they used to be, I think they still are, like 6 to 9 p.m. So there's a lot going on there. It's a really nice place to meet people, talk to other students, etc. And then I'm not going to go through this slide, but I just wanted you to know that there are course fees that may show up on the bill. So there are lab fees, that kind of thing. So I just wanted you to just understand that there could be some extra fees that show up depending on the courses that your child is taking. Billing information. Payments are calculated after financial aid is applied. So, that if we know that aid is coming, if it's been awarded by us, it'll be on there. Payments are based on outstanding account balances. Now, we don't let students run around campus very much saying charge it. That's a dangerous proposition, right? But there are some things that a student can put on the bill. So they can put a parking pass on there because we don't want them to get parking tickets, so we allow them to say charge it for that. Health center fees can be charged because we want them to go to the health center if they're sick. So those kinds of things can be charged. I have a slide later about the bookstore because they are able to charge some things at the bookstore. There's a $25 late fee if payment to a payment plan is not made on time. We'll talk about payment plans in a minute. And there's a $100 late fee for unpaid tuition if a payment plan isn't set up and they don't make a payment. So this number at the bottom of the slide, it's very important. The Student Service Center does all of our billing. They can answer any of your questions when your student sees the bill. It's 906-227-1221. And here's information about your payment options. So you can pay in full. Tuition and fees are due August 13th. Bills will be sent via email only. Paper bills will not be sent. So your student needs to be getting into the habit of checking their email, their NMU email. If you are on the bill as an authorized user, you will get an email every time your student gets an email about the bill. So even if you're not responsible for paying the bill, it's a good reminder. If you get it, you can remind your student that the bill's coming due. There is a 2.85% fee for credit card or debit card payments. So the Easy Pay plan. They will break tuition and fees into 4 equal payments. You can put room and board on there. Anything on the bill is included in this. And those payments would be due August 13th, September 13th, October 13th, and November 13th. There's a $50 non-refundable service fee to set this up. You don't need to give it to us. That is just added to the bills and divided by 4. Now, I said equal payments, but if your student is charging some things like a parking pass, let's say, or a health center fee, let's say they go to the health center in late August. As soon as they get here, they're not feeling well and they go to the health center August 30th. Okay. So that fee, they can put that fee on their bill, as I said, and then there are 3 payments left. And so that amount will be divided by 3. So if there's activity, if your student is charging some things, then that bill can change. But this is the Easy Pay plan for payments. Then the deferred payment plan means that you don't make any payment in August, but everything is then due on September 13th. And you have to sign up for that by August 13th, by the due date of tuition. And that costs $75. So they're all the payment plan options for you. Now, I know usually the slide pops up and hands go up, and we're not in person, but I kept this in here because I wanted to remind you to write down your questions because I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So if you have questions about the email, make sure that you're emailing me about it. Proxy access. See this person? It really isn't that exciting. We thought it was going to be, actually. FERPA changed several years ago and now allows students to grant access to anyone they want. to access their records. So, but the reason it's not that exciting as everyone thought it was going to be is because it is tied to our computer system. And so it's tied to the system that we use is Banner. And Banner is not EDUCAT, right? So Banner is not where test scores are, where midterm grades are, that type of thing, lab grades. That is not in Banner. The 8 things that a student could give access to someone to see are these. And as you can see, the 4th one down is final grades. And honestly, at that point, the students might as well just tell you, right? But at any rate, it exists, and I wanted you to know it exists. We're telling the students how to give you access. Perhaps they did. If they did, you received an email saying that you were granted proxy access. But, and the other thing is students can revoke it at any time. So maybe you don't want to go in there too much because they're going to wonder why you're checking their transcripts all the time. But anyway, let's see how they can grant you access. So they go into My NMU. They go to the Student Services tab as they did before. And they click on Proxy Access. That brings them to this page. Add Proxy is what they click. And then they have to fill this out with who they're giving access to. And it can be multiple people. They can do this with as many people as they want. Then they click Add Proxy, and this comes up. This is the important page. Students have to decide what they're giving the person access to. If they don't click any of these boxes, then you have access to nothing. And that happens, at least once a year. We get a call from a parent who says, why can't I see anything? I got the email that said I had access, but I can't see anything. And we go in, the back door of this process, and we can see that the student didn't check any boxes. So this is what's vital for the student to fill this page out. So they may think they're done, right, when they click that Add Proxy, and they skip this part. So if you want proxy access, and you can twist their arm to give it to you, you want to make sure that this is done, this page is done. Okay. And again, I left the question page, right? Because I wanted you to write down, parents usually have a lot of questions about proxy access. So write down any questions and then email me right after this presentation, and I'll get back to you. The bookstore. Our bookstore is run by Barnes & Noble. It is located in the renovated Northern Center. If you have a chance to see it, you should. The building's absolutely beautiful. It carries course materials and supplies that are required for all majors and minors. Now, I have to tell you, though, my daughter was an art and design major, and really, as she progressed in her major, not everything was there that she needed. She often had to go get her own supplies because it becomes very individualized. But course materials are generally there. So books, that type of thing, are definitely covered there. They carry new, used, rental, and digital material options. And that is very important for our students because they can often save a lot of money by doing the used the rental, the digital. So they offer all of that. I do want to give you just two cautionary tales from my own children. So my oldest was living in Utah after he graduated from high school. He was training for a sport, and he decided to take a course. I don't know, I think it was his second year out there. And so he signed up for an online class, and he ordered the book through some online vendor, and the book arrived, and there was a website that they were using. And so he went onto the website, and he couldn't access the website because the access code had already been used. So, then he had to return that, get another book, etc. And it put him behind actually in the course. So be careful about that. We guarantee that our used books have codes that work. And I don't know how you check that online, and, maybe now there's an easy way to do that, but just, something to think about. And the other thing to think about are the rental issues that sometimes arise for students. So my son was taking organic chemistry, much to his chagrin, and he went to the bookstore, picked up the book, and it's an enormous book. Anyway, he gets to the cashier, and she asked him if he wanted to buy it or rent it. And he asked what the difference was in price was, and it was significant. So he said, okay, I'll rent it. Well, the young man behind him in line tapped him on the shoulder and said, are you taking organic too? And Connor said, well, unfortunately, yes. And he said, well, then if you rent it, you're going to have to rent it twice because you have to return it at the end of every semester and then rent it again. So then it became more economical to buy it outright. If you're going to, so again, I'm just throwing that out there. We do have courses that use the same book for 2 semesters. And so it's just something to think about when you're looking at the new versus rental. There is an app, lots of discounts on the app. So students enjoy that because they know when everything goes on sale. And so that's good. And there's the website for the bookstore. BN stands for Barnes and Noble. And then the average cost per semester is approximately $400. But again, I have to tell you that my daughter, art and design, sometimes only paid $100 a semester for her books, whereas my hard science major sometimes paid $800 for books. So it is true that $400 is the average, but that can really, the major can really make a difference there. So just be prepared for having to spend over $400 for some majors. Again, you can save significantly by checking out all of their different options. There are the payment options. You can charge almost anything in the bookstore. I'm not sure what almost means, but anyway, you can charge to the student account. There is a $600 limit, however, and at the beginning of every semester, your account has to be in good standing in order for you to charge again. So you can't owe money from the prior semester and charge your books for the next semester. You can order online, pick up in the bookstore. They're just waiting at customer service in August in a bag or a box, and students love that convenience. So I think that, and they do price matching too. So they'll put up the prices and they'll comparison shop for you right on the website. So that can be very helpful for our students. And then the Wildcat Express card, this is our ID card. Because we didn't do in-person orientation, your students will be getting their ID card when they come in August. Everything's on it now. We used to have 2 or 3 different cards, but everything's on one card now. So the meal plans and the dining dollars are there. Cat Cash is an optional campus debit account. I have a slide on how you put money on there, but students need that for printing and copying at the library. But there is a machine there where they can put, dollar bill, $5 bill in, and it's automatically put on their card. They need it for dining on campus in the dining hall. Some of our larger employers record time and attendance by students inserting their cards. Their rec pass is on there. They needed to take books out of the library. Optional to put the Flagstar banking function on. We have a Flagstar branch right on campus, and but that's totally optional. and you need it for door access in the residence halls. So the Wildcat Express office is also in the Northern Center, and they'll be involved in check-in. So it should be easy for the students to get their cards. Now here's the slide I have on Cat Cash. So this is how you can put cash on the card. And students figure this out really quickly. The one that you might use is the second line down, which is online, so that you can go on, if you have your student's card number, you can go on to get.seaboard.com/NMU, use your credit or debit card, and put money on their card that they can use on campus, treats at Starbucks, treat them to lunch by doing this, because they can use these cards at any of the on-campus eateries on campus. We have a health center on campus. It's staffed by 2 board-certified physicians, 3 RNs, 1 nurse practitioner, plus we have nursing faculty who do some of their time there to keep their licensure. Typically, the visits start at $65 to see one of the docs. If the staff triages and thinks that you can just see an RN, then, there's the price for that, typically $30. So anyway, it goes on from there. We do have an on-site lab. We have an on-site pharmacy. The health center will bill insurance. You might want to check if your student is insured, you might want to check with the insurance provider about the eligibility of them to come to the health center. You might need to change some designation on there. Students should bring insurance cards if they're insured. Photocopies are fine. Make sure that they write the insured's birth date on there, because that's the way most insurance companies find you, is by the birth date. So make sure that they do that. We'll file claims. If there is a deductible, it can be billed, as I said, to the student's account. And if a student is under 18, they do need a consent for treatment form signed, and that is available on the website. The only vaccination that we require is measles at this point. And so that you need to provide proof of that. If your student was vaccinated in the state of Michigan, that is on a registry, so you just need to call and tell the health center that. Otherwise, it'll take any verification from a physician that the student received the measles immunization. I said there's a pharmacy on site. Here's the refill prescription number. Transfers, if you want to transfer prescriptions, up here. So that is 906-227-1165. You might want to consider that if your student is on maintenance drugs, because then they can be responsible. They're right here. They can get them on time. You don't have to worry about a mail delay, etc. The pharmacy copays have to be paid at the time that a student picks up the medicine. So just keep that in mind if that's something that your student is going to do. Safe on Campus is where we have all of our COVID information. So, and anybody can check the Safe on Campus website. So you can go on there and you can see what our numbers are looking like, the type of things that we're doing. And I'm sure that when we do the town halls with the president, he'll probably talk a lot about our COVID situation. We did really well last year. We're anticipating we're going to do even better next year. So, but anyway, I just wanted you to see that website exists, nmu.edu/safe-on-campus. Parking permits. So anybody that parks on campus has to have a parking permit. First vehicle is $140. That's for the year, calendar year. So August 1 through the next July 30. And a second vehicle is $70. Motorcycles and mopeds are only $22.50 because honestly, you can only ride those about 3 months out of the academic year. And bicycles are free, but we really recommend that students register their bike, have a really good lock. We don't have too many bikes that are stolen, honestly, on this campus, but we find bikes, and if they're, that were borrowed, and if they're not, because they weren't locked, and if they're not registered, then we don't know. We can't call and say, hey, we found your bike. So I just think it takes about 2 minutes to register your bike. It's good for the whole time. It's good forever, actually. So it's not something that a student has to do every time, they arrive back on campus. So I think that's good. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about safety in our environment. So we're all very concerned about safety in the lake. This is a big body of water, right? It's very deep. It's very cold, and there are currents. So I think that we tell the students this, but again, they all think they're invincible, right? And it would be helpful to us if you just had the same conversation with them. So the issue with Lake Superior is that it's not Grandma's Lake, right? I remember when we arrived here, I had to tell my little kids, that this is not Grandma's Lake where you learn to water ski. This is a much more dangerous situation here, and we need to respect the lake. So I put a few pictures up here just so you could see what we're dealing with. So Presque Isle break wall, nobody can stand up in that, right? So people need to pay attention. There's a gate that is closed and locked during storms, impending storms, but people climb over them. So the city has really done a lot, but there's only so much they can do, right? Little Presque Isle, very popular place for students. You can walk across there, little land bridge. There's cliff jumping on the other side, so it's a very popular place for students. 9 times out of 10, you can walk across there with no trouble, but then there is a current that can whip through there, and we have lost students there. And just recently, people had to be evacuated by boat and picked up by area boaters, like local boaters that were out there, saved some people. So it's just something that students need to be careful about. And then the bottom picture, Picnic Rocks, that's the closest beach to Northern. It is not guarded. There are all kinds of caution signs everywhere around there because there are currents that sometimes are there. And the sometimes is the problem because you can go there and be perfectly fine in the water. And then the next time you go, you get swept out. So it's very important for students to always be aware. And the other thing I wanted to point out were those rocks. When you're on the beach, those rocks look really close and people think they can just walk out there. Sometimes you can walk out there, but you can see how far away they really are. And then I put up one winter picture here because we do have ice on the lake in the winters, and really you should not walk on the ice. The general rule to live by, do not walk on the ice on Lake Superior. And then this is Black Rocks, and this is where people jump off, usually absolutely fine, right? But every once in a while you have somebody who jumps off, you can see the bottom, and it doesn't look as deep as it is, but it's deep there. It's very deep there. And so students and other people, not just students, but will jump off there and not realize that they have to know how to swim. So we've had situations where students have really gotten into trouble, and luckily there have been other people with them or just there who were able to get them out of the water. So I'm just pointing these things out, not to scare you, but to just ask for your help in educating your student. And then cold safety. Everybody loves the cold here. Everybody uses the snow, but it is important to know that everybody needs to be cautious. You need to have the right clothes on. You need to have a charged cell phone. You need to tell people where you're going. You really should not go alone into this because a snowstorm can come up, and even the most prepared person, the most experienced person can get turned around in a blizzard, and it can have a very sad ending. And so just again, we have a lot of fun up here in the snow, but we need to be smart about it. I want to talk to you about 2 federal requirements slash acts slash, we just have to do stuff. So one of them is the Violence Against Women Act. So it says that we have to educate new students regarding sexual violence. So what we did was we bought a program prepared by EverFi, and it attempts to prepare students before they begin college. So we will be sending a link out to your student, and please encourage them to complete it. We really like them to complete it before they get here, because the first weekend of school is usually pretty dangerous around partying, etc. So we like students to at least have heard what we think is important information. So if you could encourage them to complete it, that would be great. It provides a foundation about sex in college, partying smart, healthy relationships, sexual violence, bystander interventions. It's a very good program, and we think that it's helpful to our students. We've received some good feedback. We have a really good completion rate, but we'd love it to be higher. Okay, and then the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. We call it FERPA. We call it the Buckley Amendment. It's called a lot of things. It was passed in 1974, so it's really old. But basically, it's a privacy law that states that all colleges that take federal funding in any form must follow the regulations in FERPA. And the last time I checked, there were only 8 schools that were not required to follow FERPA. So because federal funding includes financial aid. So most schools in the country are bound by FERPA regulations. What I also wanted you to know is that the interpretation of the law is tricky, and it changes. I won't say that it changes often, but it gets tweaked. And so schools have to be up on the newest things, the newest parts of FERPA. So, and also there are what's called permissive disclosure clauses in FERPA. There are 9 of those, and it's phrased as in schools may. They don't have to, but they may. And so the schools can make their own decisions about some of these issues. And everybody gets the legal opinion, right? We have our lawyers look at everything. What should we do? What should we not do? And so all of that together explains why there may be some differences among colleges in how they handle FERPA. And I wanted you to know that, because I often have parents, ask me, yeah, but at the school where my daughter goes, they do it this way. Why do you do it that way? Well, because we're allowed to make some decisions around FERPA. And we really do follow what legal says. What our attorneys tell us is the best thing to do. We don't blindly follow attorneys, but they know, they have their experts on FERPA, and so we do listen to them, and we do make some decisions. So basically, it means that as of the first day of classes, and there's one of the permissive disclosure clauses, schools are allowed to decide when it goes into effect. So we picked the first day of class. So as of the first day of class, we may only give information to the student about their educational record. So that's a hard stop for parents, right? Like you saw everything in high school, And that's not going to happen in college. And so it can be very difficult. And I certainly understand that. It doesn't mean that we don't want to talk to you or that we won't talk to you. We're happy to talk to parents. It just limits what we can tell you. So it has nothing to do with talking to you. It has everything to do with what information we can give you. Usually the next thing that I'm asked is about releases. Can my son sign a release today that's good for the whole time there at Northern? No. That is not permitted under FERPA. So we do not do blanket releases like for the whole time a student is here. We do incident-specific releases. Now, there are two places on campus that do releases that are a bit longer. The health center does, and the financial aid office does. And so they have their own regulations, and that's permitted under FERPA for financial aid and for health center. Everything else would be incident specific. And what I mean by that is your son can walk into my office and say, Chris, I'd like you to talk to my mom about this alcohol violation that I had. And he can limit what I can say too, so you know. Which reminds me, permissive disclosure clause, alcohol and drug violations. We are permitted to talk to you. And we can decide when. So we do not notify parents on the first violation unless it's a serious one. So hospitalization is involved, for instance. But we do contact parents on second and subsequent alcohol violations. And the way that we do that is we send a letter. So we encourage the student to tell you first, and we give them about a week to do it. And then we follow up with a letter and just say, if you want information, give us a call. And we're permitted to tell you about that. You can call us and ask us questions. Sometimes if we give you policy in return, especially if we repeat the policy, we're probably sending you a message. So, for example, if you call me and you say, Chris, I don't understand how you can kick my daughter out of the residence hall for having one alcohol violation, one beer, one time, I will respond with, our policy is that on the first alcohol violation, a student is put on morning probation. Yeah, but my daughter was kicked out of the residence hall. Our policy is that we put a student on morning probation, which, by the way, is the lowest level of probation for their first alcohol or drug offense. So the message I'm giving you is that you might need to ask about the keg, or there was something else going on there, because we don't kick a student out on the first go. Then the next question I get is, well, my student is under 18, so surely you can give me all the information I want. No. The FERPA regulation goes into effect as soon as a student starts college. It doesn't matter if they're 12. It goes into effect. So age means nothing under FERPA. Now, in emergencies, I am permitted to call you, and that is one of the permissive disclosure clauses. It's called the Health or Safety Emergency Clause, Health and Safety Emergency Clause. But I have to tell you that the federal definition of a health and safety emergency is very different than a parental definition of health and safety. What the feds mean is that student cannot communicate with you on their own. So a broken leg, I'm not calling you. That student can dial the phone and let you know if they want you to know. But if a student cannot communicate, is in the hospital, and cannot call you, I am permitted to call you. What you need to understand is that I don't always know, right? The hospital doesn't call me every morning and say, this is who we've got. And by the way, the jail doesn't either. That always gets a laugh when I'm face to face, so I hope you're at least smiling. So I don't always know. What I suggest is that you give your phone number to your student's roommate. They put your number in their phone, because they are not bound by FERPA and they love to tell you stuff. So they'll call you, promise them brownies, they'll call you. And so I think honestly, they'll know more than I do, and they'll know it quicker. So consider that. But if you're worried, I want you to call us. This is not, it just said the battery's running low. So let's see if I can get through this. If you're worried, call us. We don't mind. We like talking to you. We just need you to understand the limitations that we have. So feel free to call us. We don't want you to sit at home worrying. If we can tell you the RD has seen your son this morning, it just brings your anxiety level down. And by the way, until 1990 something, or maybe it was 2008, we weren't even allowed to tell you that. But now we can. We can tell you if someone has seen your son or daughter. So feel free to call us. Okay, and I'm going to stop this right now before I lose my recording, and I'll be back with the last little bit. The TIP program, which TIP stands for Tuition Incentive Program. And I wanted to make sure that you had this information in case your student is eligible, because we are finding more and more students do not know about this, and they're losing out on a really great financial aid option. So this program is for Michigan students, first of all, who have received Medicaid at certain ages and periods in their life. So there's lots of information here about who is eligible. So I'm not going to read this slide to you. You can come back and reference it if you think that your son or daughter might be eligible, but it will pay for basically an associate's degree up to 80 credits. And students have to be enrolled in an associate's degree, but they can finish that associate's degree and ladder to a bachelor's degree. So that's fine, right? And we just really think there are students out there that don't know about this great opportunity for a full payment of tuition for 80 credits. So it's called TIP. Again, you can call our financial aid office if you think that your student may be eligible. They should have been told this, but we're finding, as I said, more and more students that don't seem to know about it. So it is linked to Medicaid. So just so you know. Okay, and the last slide is a save the date. We're having Family Weekend, October 8th through 10th. So please watch for more information about Family Weekend. I do want you, we have this idea that we talk about, which is like the 6-week challenge, where students stay here for 6 weeks and families stay away for 6 weeks, because we know through research that the first 6 weeks are when students get connected to the college, and a connected student is a successful student, and they graduate. And so, and let's face it, if you come up here every weekend, they're with you, you're treating them to dinner, they're swimming at your hotel pool. They're not on campus. They're not studying, but they're not on campus and they're not hanging out and making new friends. So I do know, though, that there are certain cultures where that's absolutely not going to work, but I'm just putting out the challenge to you. Family Weekend is 6 weeks in. So it's a great time for you to come and visit. And there's a website at the bottom. It's the Dean of Students website. We're updating things as we go. And just keep that in mind as a time that you might want to come up here. If you're going to come at any time, please make hotel reservations in advance, because we honestly look like a small little town. What can be happening? But there's a lot happening here every weekend. And so if you're coming, make hotel reservations as soon as you can, so that you don't end up in a hotel an hour away. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Again, Chris, my email address is cgreer@nmu.edu. Feel free to ask me any questions. If I can't answer the questions myself, I will farm your question out to the experts who can, and we'll get you the response as quickly as possible. I hope I get to meet you in August when you bring your student up here. or maybe family weekend if you can come to that. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say about family weekend is not everybody's family comes. So if you're not able to come, really don't stress. We have lots of stuff going on for the students not around family weekend. So it's absolutely fine. Don't be stressed out about that. But it would be a good timing for a visit. Okay, so email me if you have any concerns as we progress towards August. And if you're not getting the information that you need about arrival, let me know and I'll get it to you. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation and learned some things and that I answered some of the questions you might have had. So enjoy the rest of your summer and I'll see you in August.